Over the last few days, the judge who sat over the Donald Trump hush money trial announced that he would be sentenced on January 10th, which is about 10 days before Donald Trump is set to be sworn in as the next president of the United States. I don't care what your political machinations are and who you support or who you don't. This is a fascinating legal analysis. It's a fascinating case for a couple of reasons. One, no matter what you're hearing, no matter what you're saying, Donald Trump cannot pardon himself. The Constitution guarantees, the Constitution of the United States guarantees that the president has the power to pardon for federal offenses. There's a separation between your state and the federal government. Small, all. Which means the January 6 rioters can get a pardon. Fuck, R. Kelly, for Christ's sakes, could get a pardon if he wanted. Diddy, if he gets convicted, could get a pardon. Joe Biden's son could get a pardon. But those are all federal things. On your state level, your governor can give you a pardon, but the president has no power to pardon on his state level charges. Two, what was interesting about this case, why it's taken so long, is our United States Supreme Court came down on the case and they said, look, there are certain official acts that a person has to do if they become president of the United States, and he should be immune for doing stuff while he is the president of the United States. Donald Trump's trial was about a person who was not a president. But it bled over that there were certain things, Donald Trump's side is alleging, that were allowed into the trial that were official acts that he did as he was president and should not have been allowed in front of the jury. So the Supreme Court flat out said, like, look, if you're doing things that when you are the president, those are official acts, you should not be able to use those to convict. So, sitting judge, go back, look at all this stuff, and make sure that there were no official acts that were utilized while this person was president. It's always a joke of us who practice criminal law. Like sometimes we'll go to a judge who has just sentenced a client to 15, 20 years, and we file what's called a motion to reconsider. And the motion to reconsider goes back to that judge and says, Judge, can you reconsider what you just did? Because we think you're wrong. And so the judge is like, you want me to admit I was wrong? That's basically what just happened. That judge says, no, I didn't do anything wrong. This was a fair trial. The jury has spoken. These convictions stand, which gets into the next thing. He says, now what should I do? Now, the Constitution, scholars, case laws all replete that a state court cannot influence a federal election, the federal government, if they will. So this judge is like, what do I do? If I put his ass in prison, that won't work because that'll be me personally affecting the election, and I'm a Democrat and people get pissed off at me. So I'm going to give what's called an unconditional discharge. I'd never heard about it either. It's under New York law. New York Penal Code 65-20 has an unconditional discharge. In South Carolina, we have conditional discharge, meaning if a person pleads guilty to like a possession of marijuana, the judge says, I'm going to give you a conditional discharge. On these conditions, if you do all these things, I'm going to throw this charge out. Well, Donald Trump has gotten an unconditional discharge. So what is an unconditional discharge? That's it. Okay, go away, go away, go away, go away. We don't see you. That's an unconditional discharge. No fine, no probation, no jail time. It's just like, you've been found guilty. Let's move on. That's literally what an unconditional discharge is. What's also interesting is Donald Trump cannot appeal the judge's order, but he can appeal his conviction. So there will still be an appellate issue on the conviction on whether or not these official acts were allowed in. So the final thing is when we talk about sentencing, there will be a lot of people that say, he should go to jail for what he did. Shut the fuck up. When you are looking at an individual who does not have a criminal record, has never been in trouble before, has a pretty good job, making a couple of bucks, might be the ruler of the free world, you could say the victims have been made whole, and you can make these arguments, and I think Donald Trump would have some pretty good references. This case screams probation, time served, or a fine. It just does. So everybody saying he's being treated differently than anybody else, I disagree. I think realistically, under the criminal arena, he's being treated about the same as anybody else would be. Well, almost.